going to start with our global awards and then move into our conference awards. So it's with great pleasure that I get to welcome Dr. Jigme, I'm sorry, I'm going to apologize if I say your name wrong, but Jigme Wangyal Tshelthrim. He is our 2025 Edward T. LaRoe Memorial Award winner. Jigme, thank you. Yes, there we go. Before I turn, and so we've invited our awardees to speak for 5 minutes. Before I hand over the mic to Jigme, I'd like to note that the Edward T. LaRoe Memorial Award is given to an individual who has been a leader in translating principles of conservation biology into real-world conservation. Preference is given to employees of government agencies or individuals who have spent at least part of their career in public service. The intention is to recognize innovative application of science to resource management and policy. Jigme has been awarded this for extraordinary contributions to the conservation of Bhutan's amphibians and reptiles through pioneering research, citizen science engagement, and mentorship, transforming herpetological knowledge and conservation efforts in the kingdom. Since 2008, he's led efforts to document and understand Bhutan's amphibian and reptile biodiversity, single-handedly developing the country's first comprehensive list of herpetofauna. With further ado, Jigme, thank you. Can we have that for you? Okay. And just advance that way. That's to go forward.
Okay, so what to say? This man is from the Himalayas. If you go to my country, it's very expensive. But I'm enjoying here. Thanks, Australia. I was sponsored by Australian government for my PhD. I'm still here. So the award should go to Bhutan, my country, not here. I'm just kidding. So thank you. Actually, SCB, I'm very much thankful to SCB. So I thought I'll never come to SCB, but with their funding, I'm here. So I need to thank a few people who always help me do my work. You are not free to work in my country, but I can collect any data. I don't need permission. So this is the uniqueness in me. So whatever I have here on the screen is, we had a very, very scarce information, especially on amphibians and reptiles. So what I did, I started from the scratch, and I should say alone, when I began, found that we didn't have anything. So I started slowly forming teams, and this is how I ended up doing a few good things. If I talk more, there are a lot, so I'm just thankful to my friends in Bhutan, my leaders, the Department of Forest and Park Services. I used to be a forest officer for a long 23 years. So in that time, I got opportunity to apply what I learned. And I also made sure that amphibians and reptiles are there in the policy documents. Otherwise, it wasn't there. That's how Edward LaRoe Award comes to me. So thank you so much, SCB. I'll make sure I attend the one in Mexico. Thank you.
Next. All right. Now I'm very pleased to be able to welcome Dr. Monique Sosnowski, our 2025 Early Career Conservationist Awardee, to the stage. Our Early Career Conservationist Award honors achievements in conservation by professionals early in their careers. SCB does not apply an age criteria in order to enable eligibility for individuals who might have come to conservation as a second career. For extraordinary contributions, we are recognizing Monica for her contributions to the conservation of biodiversity through innovative research and education in wildlife crime prevention. She's emerged as a leading figure in the field, seamlessly blending her expertise in criminology and environmental science to address critical global challenges, such as wildlife trafficking and environmental crime. Monique, welcome. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, everyone. It is an unbelievable honor to be here. And thank you all for making it to this final award ceremony after a very long, a very exciting, and a very productive conference. So I just want to give you a little bit of background on the work that I do. As mentioned, my work is something that I find at the kind of intersection of criminology and wildlife crime. I started my career early on, having a childhood where I found awe in being amongst our wild places, and throughout my career got the chance to unfortunately see everything from vultures being poisoned through elephants being killed for their ivory. Coming from conservation and that education and that love for wildlife that many of us share and the calling to protect wildlife, I actually made quite a career pivot from conservation, having my master's in conservation, to criminal justice, which is kind of where I have found my niche. With that, I have really worked to address wildlife crime from an interdisciplinary approach, blending everything from conservation through forensic science, crime science or criminology, and the big data that much of us have brought to this conference, whether it's qualitative, quantitative, to help us answer our questions into all aspects of conservation. To give you one example of this interdisciplinary work and how I approach it alongside many of my colleagues is through this example of a wildlife seizure. These photos are from a seizure at Los Angeles International Airport just in 2017, where a man was caught with 93 different exotic birds stuffed into his suitcases. With seizures like this happening around the world, we see DNA barcoding being used to identify species. We see isotope analysis tracking their origins. We see forensics, digital forensics being used to track WhatsApp messages and other messages to track where individuals are coming from, and crime science to look at the patterns and really work at prevention of wildlife crime through that criminal justice perspective. So all in all, these types of cases are unfortunately common, as we know and as we heard throughout many of the presentations here throughout this conference, and this interdisciplinary approach is, of course, one way that we can help tackle these issues. Wildlife crime as conservation science and in the scope of the world is, of course, an evolving area. Now we can think more work into big data, into GIS systems, and approaching these topics from now AI systems, and even looking into Bitcoin and blending our expertise together beyond boundaries with banks, with computer scientists, and with everyone that can really come together to help tackle these issues, which also integrate from the criminal justice side, serious organized crime groups like this individual here who runs an organized crime group out of Southeast Asia and is known to be the Pablo Escobar of animal trafficking, or Mr. Big of wildlife crime. So as we all know and as we all come together here, there's so much for us to fight for. And it's not, especially with coming to wildlife crime through only arrests and seizures, that we have to approach conservation, but we approach it in terms of hope, in terms of freedom, and building a healthy planet and sustainable systems for the communities that live within all the wild places on this earth and ourselves, and need us all to come together to protect that for a sustainable planet and a sustainable future. So thank you so much for your time, and it's truly an honor to be here with you today.
I'm pleased to next be able to announce our Distinguished Service Awards, the first being Professor Richard Fuller. Our Distinguished Service Award recognizes individuals, groups, or institutions for distinguished service in any field associated with conservation biology and whose work has furthered the mission of SCB. We recognize Richard for exceptional contributions to conservation biology through pioneering research, influence on national and international policy, driving science communication, and dedication to mentoring the next generation of conservation scientists. Please help me welcome Richard to the stage. Hold it for you.
Thank you so much. It's a really great honour to be up here, and really I shouldn't be the one that's up here, as I'm going to explain right now. I'm a white, English-speaking, heterosexual, cisgender man of British origin. I've worked hard, yes, but I've walked a path paved with privilege. That path isn't available to everyone. Too many of us still face barriers of discrimination and marginalisation. And I'm grateful that so many of us are working hard to change that. Let me tell you about birds. Something quietly extraordinary has been happening next to Brisbane in Moreton Bay for 30 years now. A group of passionate local bird watchers have been counting coastal water birds. Week after week, rain or shine, not because they were paid, but because they cared about nature. This group came to us at the University of Queensland 18 years ago, worried. The birds they love were disappearing. I remember opening their data set for the very first time and staring in absolute horror at what I was seeing. The declines of these birds were simply staggering. Species after species crashing. A year later, I presented those findings at a shorebird conference in Tasmania. Almost every talk had similar results: declines, collapses, tears. This meeting was a kind of shared heartbreak. A heavy sense of helplessness overwhelmed the gathering. We all felt it. That no one in power knew or cared. That these little brown birds on muddy coastlines were simply not going to win hearts, let alone policy. But slowly, things began to shift. The Australian government offered some funding. It wasn't much, but it got us started. Many of these coastal shorebirds are migratory. They fly from their breeding grounds in the Arctic right down here to Australia. And they stop in many countries along the way to rest and refuel. That made finding the causes of their decline immensely difficult. Their journey spans an entire hemisphere. But eventually, the picture became clearer. In East Asia, especially in China and Korea, massive coastal development had wiped out over 2/3 of the stopover habitats these birds were relying on their migrations. Satellite analyses revealed that the scale of the destruction was simply staggering. I cried during a national radio interview. Quiet, heartfelt, but very public grief. But then, more momentum. More and more brilliant labs in China and around the world joined the quest. Many of those great scientists are right here in this very room with us today. Media attention and public interest began to surge in a way we would never predict was possible. Australia and China formed a strong conservation partnership despite ups and downs in the relationships between our two countries. And eventually, in 2018, China stopped all coastal reclamation projects. The following year, key sites were listed as World Heritage properties across China and Korea. I watched the World Heritage vote live, punching the air with delight. That moment felt like real hope. We recently went back to the data from community groups like those in Moreton Bay and around the country. The critically endangered Far Eastern curlew declining for decades, has now begun to stabilize. Maybe conservation is finally working. Maybe it's not too late. Much remains to be done, but I've learned a lot along the way. Most notably, the science itself was only a tiny part of the story. It was the interlocking action of literally thousands of people that drove change. I've learned it's not just the data that matter. It's being at the table when big things are going down. I've learned it can take decades, frustratingly too long, from identifying a problem to seeing solutions begin, but we need to maintain our patience. I've found a niche in science that suits me, and I've completely loved it. I'm an introvert. I'm not a natural networker. I don't enjoy confrontation. I don't enjoy politics. I'm not a gifted modeler or statistician, and I often doubt myself. To our early career colleagues in particular, if you recognize yourself in any of that, know that we need you, and there's a place for you too. Thank you all very much.
Thank you all. We're going to move to our next Distinguished Service Award winner. And if anyone can match that amazing speech, I know it's Anthony Giordano. Please welcome to the stage Anthony for his extraordinary contributions to the conservation of mammalian carnivores through his bold thought leadership in system and design thinking, investments in innovation, entrepreneurial approaches to problem solving, commitment to mentorship and building capacity, and the strategic development and implementation of novel, bold, and effective programs, research, and partnerships.
Thank you. It really is an honor, and I told Vanessa if I'm up here in 6 minutes from now that force is permissible to remove me. As a child, I remember the concept of extinction haunting me, this randomness of mass extinction. It was something I couldn't get past, but worse, I think much worse, was the idea that we were causing an extinction crisis now. As I read book after book about species recently lost, species that neither I nor anyone here could ever see again, a fire began to grow inside of me. That fire eventually took me here to Brisbane more than 30 years ago, right up the Queensland coast, through Daintree, Cape Tribulation, all the way to the Great Barrier Reef and Iron Range National Park. It opened a door to me working in nearly 50 countries and with hundreds of species over my career, including sharks and other marine fish, snakes, my first passion, actually, raptors, parrots, prairie dogs, emergent trees in tropical forests, ungulates, and ultimately to the carnivore research and conservation work that I became better known for. Getting to where I am now was not easy. I didn't just want to do science and publish, although I enjoy all of that immensely. My desire, no, my need to find real solutions to big conservation problems and challenges would ensure a non-traditional career, and that meant struggle. And if failure meant learning, then wow, let me tell you all right now, I've learned a lot. Although the ups and downs of my career became exhausting at times, at my lowest points, I drew strength from all of you. Just knowing you were all out there and fighting your fights often got me through. This most amazing and diverse community of ours that instantly bonds and connects strangers of diverse cultures, backgrounds, races, religions, and orientations, all making sacrifices in their own lives over the shared compulsion just to act, to do something, to end this mass extinction crisis. To this day, I know of no other community quite like this. For the past 17 years, I've been the director of Species, a carnivore conservation organization I founded to mitigate threats to global carnivore populations. I am proud to say that we are having or have had an impact in 19 different countries, benefiting more than 70 species of carnivores and the countless rural communities that live among and alongside of them. And in recent years, though, I've started on a new path, one of conservation entrepreneurship, a path that led me to co-founding Meanjin, a startup looking to disrupt the carbon and biodiversity credit markets and how the world invests in economic development. The creation of awardees, a platform that has the potential to be one of our most powerful tools yet in the fight against environmental crime and wildlife trafficking. And it led to my role at the Conservation Technology Accelerator, a new organization looking to provide more equitable access to advanced technology solutions across the global south. What's next? A new ecotourism company that champions fair and equitable revenue sharing partnerships with local communities and also values their health and well-being. A new startup designing innovative solutions and services to human-carnivore coexistence challenges. And the world's first Jaguar-friendly commodity brand that will deliver premium payments to rural women, coffee growers in Colombia, for being effective stewards of the Jaguar corridor. All redefining what we mean by nature positive, or in some cases, nature-based solutions. So what can I share with all of you regarding the lessons I've learned for those now starting their careers in conservation, for those in the middle of their careers that want or need to do more? Be bold and take risks. Be genuinely curious, but be skeptical. Challenge assumptions. Ask tough questions even when it's unpopular. Be the child that asks why until that kid in you is ready for a timeout. Always put people that live with biodiversity first, particularly indigenous nations for whom wildlife and ecosystems are part of a rich and storied native and natural heritage. Ask communities how you can help, but please follow through. Be transparent about your motivations. Share and contribute data where and when you can, especially if it's actually helping improving the practice of conservation. Win that battle with imposter syndrome. Because you, all of you, you're the real deal. And don't let anyone ever tell you otherwise. You have no limits. Run toward what is different, not away from it. Break out of your silo and shed that prison called a comfort zone. Be the interdisciplinary, cross-sectoral person, because people with diverse knowledge, not just deep knowledge, can actually change the world. Strike that right balance between innovation and evidence, as both are critical to the development of effective, lasting conservation solutions. Understand the big picture, but have patience for the granular, because that's where really those aha moments actually are. And from time to time, be open to unlearning the things you think you know. Do it by really listening to the communities we want to help, as well as to your colleagues, students, mentors, and other people that you might disagree with. Then take your new insights and go disrupt the status quo. In the end, if you've unsettled more than a few people, you're probably on the right path. Finally, as you look to blaze a new trail, but also balance career, family, and the more than occasional crisis of faith, just lean on all of us, as I did with you. We'll be there. To SCB and all of you, and thank you very, very much for being such an amazing organization and community, and for being my home. And if you're interested, please reach out. Thank you.
And I'm pleased to invite our final Distinguished Service Award speaker, Sanjay Molur, to the stage. He has been instrumental in developing species conservation plans for several mammals: gharial, 5 species of hornbills, Madagascar lemurs, conducted multi-species conservation assessments for medicinal plants, amphibians, reptiles, mammals, mangroves, invertebrates, freshwater fish, aquatic plants, and assessed over 10,000 taxa around the world using the IUCN Red List, both at the global and regional levels. For over 30 years, he has represented the species assessment, planning, and conservation in India and South Asia for the IUCN on a voluntary basis, establishing protocols and needs of carrying out these activities in this region, and will continue to into the future, having established training programs in various spheres, identifying trained youth to start assuming responsibilities for the same. Welcome, Sanjay, to the stage.
Cool. Well, it's been a great 4-5 days here. But before coming here, just going back to 32 years back when I joined the organization, when I got into conservation, little did I imagine that this would happen. So thanks to SCB for actually making this a reality for me, for honoring my 32 years of service in conservation. Thank you, SCB, and thank you all for the support. I was, wondering how to give this. Do I give my history or do I give one of the Oscar speeches? So I thought maybe a combination. Think like, okay, let me just start off. Like I say, okay, I'd like to thank everybody. Well, I did thank you all, and thank you, SCB, for inviting me over here. But back home, I'd like to, first of all, thank my family, my wife, Payal, and daughter, Ilakshi, for being with me through the thick and thin of times. And, conservation is not that easy. We all suffer from various different things that when we get into this field. It's something that you keep to yourself at times, and sometimes we share it with people, but many a times it's a challenge that we cannot take for granted. We have to address it. And without family support, it just is not winnable. So apart from them, I'd like to thank my parents and my sister for actually bearing with me in all the different things that happened through the last 3 decades. And even before that, because mind you, in India and in South Asia, I'm sure in many parts of the world, conservation is not a preferred choice of career. It is either engineering or medicine or becoming one of those, set, careers. And conservation, one that does not make as much money, one that is not understood well by people. With a family full of cousins who are all engineers, I turn out to be this really guy who's not interested in engineering, not interested in medicine, not interested in business management, but interested in some little critters in the ground, looking at amphibians, looking at reptiles, and wondering what's gotten into this guy. And well, I'm sure, having dealt with youngsters today, the situation is not very different. And today it's even more challenging for youngsters because the kind of opportunities out there make them even more want to get into something that earns a lot of money. It's not just individuals, it's the society, it's the parents, it's friends, and the constant comparison. So for those of you who are here, just beginning out in your conservation careers, I would say all the very best. And I would first of all congratulate you for taking this step. So I'd like to give each of you a big hand and ask everyone to give a big hand to everybody here. Please keep at it. There are times when things are almost really miserable. You'll feel it within you, but do not give up. Hope is the biggest thing, and that's what I've grown up with. And this hope was instilled in me by none other than my mentor, Sally Walker. So I'd like to actually dedicate this award to her. She is not here, unfortunately, with us. But having set up Zoo Outreach Organization 40 years back, our philosophy was to work in the background. So I've been talking to a lot of people here. Many of you are new. I don't see many silverbacks, which is great. And a lot of the young ones do not know who I am, do not know the organization, Zoo Outreach. And I've been asked several times, or even apologized to, saying, oh, sorry, I didn't know about your organization. It's been 40 years, wow, okay. Something's wrong with me because I didn't know about you. No, nothing's wrong with you guys. It's just that we had the philosophy and to work in the background and not put ourselves out there. And having done that, we've been able to achieve a whole lot of these things. And I mean, some of this is what is highlighted here. But this is just a few. And it also gave me individually the opportunity to work in not one aspect, but in so many different things. It just is has been a wonderful experience. So if I were to go back 30 years before and rethink of what I want to do, I would do exactly the same thing. And they involve all these different things. So I would also like to thank my teammates who've been my support, all these years. And because we've always not put ourselves out, I promised them that I would at least show something to commemorate 40 years of them being with us. So please bear with me. It's a very small. One final thing for the youngsters, believe in yourself and you can achieve wonders. Thank you very much.
Now we did have one awardee who couldn't join us, so we just wanted to make sure that she receives the recognition she deserves. Dr. Erika Zavaleta, in the 2025 Conservation Beacon Award. The Beacon Award recognizes women of marginalized and multiply marginalized status that are traditionally underserved within higher education. We want to recognize Dr. Zavaleta and her award in absentia. We congratulate all of our Global Service Award winners.